No,
Okay,
it's good.
everyone, we are back up. This is the Red Ribbon Retrospect again. Episode 7. We have Echo Fox's Theo. Thank you so much, Theo, now that you have audio, for joining us.
Right on. My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So, yeah, it's been a couple weeks. I've been very busy, so I apologize. This was a thing I wanted to do every week, but it looks like so it just will be always be like organized that I'm gonna be doing this like just monthly, hopefully like right before or after a tournament, and that'll be like good talking discussions, get time to sink in too, because like that way there will be always like some new stuff. Like not that new stuff doesn't happen every week with the game, but it
Mhm.
definitely like tends to slow down like and it's more like local talk than it is like about the vast majority of the community. I feel like when it's like that. So yeah, let's get the ball rolling. So Theo, for those who don't know you, give them a little bit about yourself, how long you've been playing fighting games, and what you do.
Of course. So, for anyone that isn't as familiar with me, of course, my name is Echo Fox Theo, and I am a professional fighting game player. I've been playing NRS games since MK9, but I started to seriously like competing them as soon as Injustice 1 came out. And even though I took a bit of a hiatus for MKX, now I'm like back on the whole competitive scene with Injustice 2 and some Dragon Ball FighterZ as well. So that's basically like me in a nutshell.
Yeah, it's been awesome to see your performance so far too in Dragon Ball after, a lot of the NRS players seem to like be pegged for just like, oh, they're just NRS players, blah blah blah. And, it's not even just you, right? Like there's other people that have been rising up to the occasion.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There's a lot. And I mean that stigma about like NRS players only playing NRS fighting games, like that's been around since like the beginning of time. But I mean like there's no real like logic or just any kind of concrete evidence behind that statement. It's just I feel like it's kind of like a meme at this point. And especially like with Dragon Ball FighterZ, there's just so many like people from the NRS scene that are just like you said rising up to the occasion that I feel like we can finally put that stigma to rest after a long, long period of time of putting up with it.
Definitely. I think this game has like kind of proven, and it's a game that's like kind of uniting all the communities, which is something we've talked about on here before. So let's dive into some fun discussion topics. One thing that I like about the game is it's just insane.
Yeah.
It's like Marvel level insanity. Like you have a million things going on at once. What
Mm-hmm.
what do you personally feel currently about the game? Like how do you feel about the current state of the game, like whether it's good or bad?
Well, I mean, overall the game is great. Like I think the game overall just as a package, especially out of the gate, is freaking amazing. I mean, the presentation, the visuals, I mean, like you said, the insane gameplay, just like the respect to the source material, like all of that is just absolutely outstanding. So like just looking at it from like a casual point of view, like I love it. Now, when we get into like the competitive side of things, of course the game is still fantastic. Um, I mean, obviously there's a bit of controversy surrounding the balance because like finding cells, adult Gohans, Android 16s, Vegetas, like that's really really easy to come by.
Now you play
In the
some of those, right?
yes, saying some of those is a bit of an understatement. Yeah, I've definitely delved into the dark side in terms of my competitive endeavors with Dragon Ball FighterZ. But yeah, I mean, like the game really, really allows for a lot of creativity and just like you know, like doing any kind of approach from an offensive state of mind. And there's a lot of depth in both the meta and the mechanics, so I love that. And I mean, like even though like I said there's a bit of maybe questions surrounding the balance of the game and some characters being obviously better than others. Like I heard that Bamco said that a patch was gonna come soon. I mean, a lot of us assume they're going to come with the next DLC, and then they specifically said that a lot of those characters that the scene has a lot of issues with, they're going to address those characters one way or another. So I think like the game, even though it's great now, it's heading to an even better direction in the future.
Yeah, I mean balance patches too. It's like they're a sensitive subject because you always want the devs to, take their time and not just like rush a patch. You want because no matter what, right? Let's
Mm-hmm.
let's look at history of games. you nerf one character, a new top tier rises, right?
Yeah.
So you gotta wonder, will there be somebody to counter this person, or like, keep them in check? Because, speaking of NRS terms, I know that was like a very hot, hot subject for like when, right before Aquaman got nerfed the first time. Like that's why I think it like, it took such a time for the thought process. But in the end, like there's always been like decisions that have been made that like it doesn't necessarily like, not to say in fighting games all over that there haven't been characters that have been nerfed a little too much, but for the
Hmm.
most part, you can tell when the devs have thought it out, and it really shows once the balance patches come out. Now that was actually a discussion topic I had for us, so we can just go into that right away since you already mentioned it. But
Hmm.
so they haven't really said what is being nerfed yet, but I know that there's been like a list of like the characters that are potentially being nerfed in this, like with, your beloved adult Gohan, right? You play adult Gohan on the list here.
Hmm.
But there's a lot of characters that I wonder if they're getting buffed that are on here too, because you see Beerus and you see Nappa, and I can only like hope to think that they would, buff those characters considering the state of the game. What are your thoughts? Like what kind of buffs and nerfs do you want to see with this balance patch?
Of course. Now, just a preface, it is true that I play and have played Adult Gohan for most of the game's life. I've actually been playing Bardock a lot more as a replacement for him currently. Like within like the past, I'd say a week or two, I've just been playing nothing but Bardock instead. So I'd say if they do, put the stake in Adult Gohan's heart, it wouldn't like emotionally affect me as much.
Okay.
But yeah, to basically talk about like the the list that they showed, because it was kind of vague because they showed a bunch of characters. They didn't say which one of them were getting the axe or not, even though like we can use our intuition there. But then they had that little like section where it said etc. So I assume that there's going to be a lot more characters that they're going to change. But based on the ones they showed, I'd say for sure Adult Gohan and 16 are going to get like the most focused on in terms of like a balance change, because besides like having an angry Vegeta, like those two characters are some of the most common in like any top 8 or any top 16. So I assume that they're going to be nerfed the hardest out of the rest of them. And it kind of sucks for me because I play Android 16 and I love that character very, very much. And I know you're not going to believe me when I say this, but when I first picked up that character at launch, I did it because I thought he was cool. Like
Yeah.
I thought
Yeah.
I thought that character looked cool. I didn't do it because he looked potato. I just thought he was cool. I just thought he was cool, and then it turned out that he was potato.
Did you
Now,
did you like
uh,
him in the series? Was that a character that you initially wanted to play, or you just like kind of picked him up in the game and you were like, "Whoa, I really like the way this guy plays."
I think it was a bit of both. I mean, I do like him in the series. I just think aesthetically he's a really really cool character. But at the same time, like I wanted this to be the first fighting game where I explore like kind of the big body realm, since that like character archetype was something that I've never explored in past fighting games. So I thought like Android 16 would be like my first gateway drug to the big body meta. And I mean, as you can see with just how the character turned out overall, it was a really really good decision. But I mean, in terms of like nerfing him, since I know that's a really, really hot subject, especially with that character, I mean, I myself have made a lot of memes about that character because I accept, how strong he is.
Hmm.
I would assume that they would probably touch like his vortex. You know that vortex that he does with his light command grab that it leads
Yeah,
to,
is that
and
like the dunk, the quote unquote?
yeah,
Yeah.
the dunk exactly.
Yeah.
I assume that they're not going to make that a hard knockdown anymore, or if they want to like be a little bit more conservative, they'd probably make it cost a bar of meter, because in its current state, like it costs him a bar of meter to set that up since he gets it from a vanish. So I assume that they would probably like make that overall ordeal cost him 2 bars of meter instead, just to like make that messed up situation cost more resources. I mean, I could be totally wrong. I mean, I don't know how Arxis, you know, like what their game plan is in terms of like past games, since this is like my first anime fighter. But like just from a like if I were to bet my money on how they would touch 16, it would be his vortex. They would just make that like a little bit, less strong.
Definitely.
Now, Now, Adult Gohan too. While we're at that, since I play him too, man, I just think his EX leg loop pressure, like that's gonna get the axe in some way or another. Because I mean that whole like situation is just so messed up. I think what they're probably gonna do is they're just gonna like either make that less plus, or they would make it where he would have to like do his potential unleash super to like be able to get that ability. Like that's what I'm assuming they did for Adult Gohan. And I do think he needs kind of like a damage nerf, so I think they would do that like with him too.
Well, he seems like the character that has it all, like in the game. Like he's just kind of like that really good character, especially like
Yeah.
watching people use him. Like he fits. I don't know if it's necessarily true that he fits every team, but like I feel like you could slide him into a team and he'd probably work.
Well, literally slide him in because that's like what his footsies are. His
Yeah.
two medium.
Now, is there a
Yeah.
character that isn't maybe that strong right now that you would maybe try or pick up if they got buffed?
Now that's something that I really, really wanted to like kind of give my 2 cents on because that's really a scary subject in like offensive games like this. And the reason why I say that is because the universal like pressure mechanic in this game is doing like an instant air dash in the corner into like a jump attack or like an instant air dash into an empty low. That's like one of your classical like pressure tools. So then it's kind of like it begs the question of like, let's say Adult Gohan has you in the corner versus let's say Krillin has you in the corner, a character that a lot of people think isn't as top tier. What's the difference between like Adult Gohan doing an instant air dash jump heavy and Krillin doing an instant air dash jump heavy on you? It's like they both have that similar pressure game plan where it's like when you buff those less commonly used characters, I feel like you just have to be really, really careful. Like
Yeah.
you don't overbuff them to the moon since like I said, a lot of these characters have that kind of like similar pressure game plan. It's, instant air dashes, using an assist to get some plus frames. So I mean, yeah, I feel like they would buff the characters that I don't see as often as Beerus and Krillin, along with some others. But then it's just like, you know, it's kind of scary.
Yeah,
Like,
Beerus is one of those ones I'm hoping to see get a little bit of buff. I had to take him like when I was playing like more often. I had to take him off my team and like put in Goku Black because he just wasn't working no matter what I
mhm,
did with that like synergy for the team. And I've heard that with a lot of people though that there's a lot of people that like had Beerus, but he just wasn't working right now with the way the game
uh-huh,
is for like the meta and like their team specifically. But I mean there are really good Beerus players like the Arm from Chicago.
yeah,
He's like great. Um,
hmm
so it's not like he's unusable or anything, but it would be cool to see him like maybe get a little bit of a buff where maybe he can vibe better with a lot of the different teams. So if people want to use him, they can.
a lot of Beerus players say like they don't want his projectiles to be super dashable, but I'm just like, he'd be a really freaking scary zoner if like they go that route. Because then it's like his pressure would be a lot better, and it would just be a lot harder to like move against him. But I mean, like, I haven't played against Beerus that much, nor do I play the character. So, like, that's just me speaking from like a very, very like take it with a grain of salt point of view. But I mean, it's really interesting to see what they do with him.
Yeah, I agree. And so far everything you said, like it's very feasible. It's not like you're asking for crazy buffs. You're actually pretty level-headed about that, and that's like why I've been excited to have you as a guest because I don't always have players on this show. It's been like some commentators, etc., and it's refreshing to have that, especially for the audience watching in because I feel a lot of our audience is the player crowd. So
Yeah,
thank you.
for sure.
Now let's just dive into like I think this is an important thing for a lot of people to maybe hear about is you're a sponsored player by the team, you know what I mean? Like one of the teams, the Echo Fox. What's it been like since you have gotten on there and what's it like being able to have teammates that play this game with you and have them as training partners? Like were you always training partners with these people before or, you know, how has this changed your life and what do you appreciate most?
Man, it's been night and day. Like that's what I'll preface it with. Um, I mean, yeah, it's just really really crazy just how much more convenient they've just made life for me. Because back in Injustice One, most of my like tournaments and trips and just like expenses have been completely out of pocket. Like I did have a sponsor for a period of time, but like obviously they didn't like provide all the commodities as like my current sponsor. So it's just really been night and day. Like they take care of me really well. Like we get a salary. We get everything covered when we go on trips. It just really gives us a lot of opportunities and a lot of time to practice our games. And as far as like Sonic and Scar goes, Scar wasn't around for Injustice 1 as much. Like he did play it, but he didn't go like as hard in it as he did Mortal Kombat and Injustice 2. So I would say like Injustice 2 is my first time, having Scar as a training partner because that's a game that we both go really hard in. Now Sonic Fox is a different story. I played Sonic Fox a ton in Injustice 1. Back when Aquaman was broke as hell, back when Batgirl was broke as hell.
Oh, yeah.
So we did play a lot in that game together, and that's like where we just became friends and got a lot closer with each other. So that basically carried over in Injustice 2. I get matchup experience against his like freaking 37 different characters. So I mean, it's really convenient because he plays all those characters at a really high level. I mean, as you can see from our past tournaments, I mean, he's beaten me in tournament with like basically half the cast at this point. So,
Well,
I mean,
now
that's
in
the
a fursuit. You got the
yeah,
fursuit coming now.
exactly. So it's like both the character select advantage and kind of like the mental advantage on me, basically. It's like if I ever fight him in like a side by side scenario, I'll just always see that like fursuit in my peripheral. Like, and I can always see like that freaking.
You're gonna have flashbacks of like blue. You're just gonna see blue everywhere.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, I don't know. Like, is it the snout? Is that what they call it? Like the
It's not.
freaking nose? Like, I'm gonna freaking see that in my peripheral. So it's like if I'm on the freaking player one side, which is the left side, and then like on the player two side, it's gonna be like the first half is gonna be like me seeing Firestorm, and the second half is this freaking like snout covering like the other half of the stream. So it's or the screen. So I mean, yeah, like
I
the next
like
time.
it though.
Yeah, I like it too. I like it too. Like I said, a mental advantage. But like if I ever fight him at Evo, I'm just gonna like demand the TOs like put us in like those face to face tournament setups where we both have like
Oh,
separate monitors.
that makes sense. I can't argue with that. Um, but with what you said, that's amazing. I'm very happy for you and the guys that we've seen like become a part of this team. So it's, and shout outs to Kill Sage for also just getting sponsored.
Oh
So,
yeah.
it's really cool to see what you guys are doing.
Hmm.
Um, Also, you guys have some of the I'm not even joking, like Decay and I have both said you guys have some of the best like as far as teams go, like merch, like a lot of teams I think could learn from the way that like the style and stuff. Like the track jackets are like super nice. The
Oh my God, they
the
are.
varsity jackets, like it's very well done. So
Hmm.
it hopefully like that'll like cause a spark and like all this like with the esports stuff, like you get you know high tier gear, going around
Yeah.
for people. Um, so let's talk real quick before we go into any segments and whatnot. Combo Breaker. Combo Breaker's coming up. It's huge. Dragon
Hmm.
Ball has the largest amount of entrants right now.
Yeah, it
What
does.
what are you doing right now to train for Combo Breaker, and what is it like? Because I assume you're playing more than one game there. What is it like
Hmm.
balancing multiple games while you're aiming to win at the same time?
It's definitely a really like new thing for me because this is like the first time I've ever played two games competitively at the same time. Like I did play Mortal Kombat 9, but not as like in depth as I did with the Injustice games. But as soon as like Injustice 1 came out, I just kind of put Mortal Kombat 9 like completely on the back burner. But like since now it's a different era, different time, and different priorities. Basically, what I try to do is I just try to like split it 50-50 between like both games. So it's like let's say for example, like you give yourself 8 hours on like a weekend to play fighting games. It's like you would do like let's say 4 hours on Injustice and 4 hours on Dragon Ball FighterZ. But also most importantly, you just have to make sure like those 4 hours that you put in each game is just like make sure it's as efficiently as possible. Like make sure you're always playing against players that challenge you. Make sure you're always playing like matchups that you're not really used to. If you're in training mode, make sure you're not like just messing around in training mode. Make sure you're actually labbing stuff that's important to you. And like in the time that you're not playing either game, just make sure you're like studying footage or just like theory fighting about, the games as much as possible. And I guess like another thing is thankfully like since Injustice and DBFC didn't come out at the same time, like I've already kind of been mechanically used to Injustice at this point. Now that's not to say like that's not an excuse to neglect it. Like there's always something new to learn about Injustice, both in like matchups and matchup theories, execution, like but it's more like since I'm already familiar with Injustice mechanics, since I'm already comfortable with just like the base fundamentals of the game, like that just makes it less stressful for me to juggle both fighting games at the same time. Like if that makes sense. Whereas like if DBFC and Injustice, came out at the same time, it would just be like so freaking stressful since you're like learning two new fighting games at the same time. Like you're just gonna confuse like both mechanics like once you hop around each game.
Yeah, and I can only imagine if pools are like similar to each other, you don't want to be like, oh, this input, and then you just mess it up and you get bodied because of one mistake with a button. Uh,
Yeah, you're just like you do Aquaman's From the Deep, like how it's like minus 20 something, right? You're just like I tried to do From the Deep point blank and I was just mashing Vanish, but it didn't come out. You're just like, oh shit, wrong game.
I mean, I don't imagine if Aquaman had a vanish, that would be terrifying.
That's like Injustice One Aquaman tier.
But still, like, still talking about Combo Breaker, are there any people, like, obviously you're aiming to get top 8 there.
Yeah,
Are there any people that you think might surprise us that we haven't seen yet shine that you've been, like, maybe keeping your eye out on, like, for tech or just anything, like, just somebody that you admire maybe as another player that hasn't really had their chance yet at a major to, whoop some ass?
of course. So I mean, with Dragon Ball, it's really hard to say since the game is like really new at this point. So I mean, like just talking about Dragon Ball, like when I look at my Dragon Ball pool, like obviously like certain names would stand out. Let's say like the Goichis of the world, or like the Toxin, since he's one of my favorite players to watch, or like other players. Like those names obviously stand out. But like in Dragon Ball, since I don't recognize any of the names, that's like as scary as like having some anime god in your pool. So like for that game, I mean anyone's a threat at this point. Like anyone can be super duper top at this point. I mean it's such a popular game just like off of namesake and just off of like just like people loving it alone that and especially since there's probably going to be like 1,000 or more interests there that anyone can be a threat at that game. Now for Injustice, I mean, besides like the players that have been top for the whole game's life, like Sonic, Dragon, etc.
Hmm.
I think Tweety's gonna break through. I mean, it's kind of I guess it doesn't really do him justice when I say breakthrough, since like he's been super duper
Yeah.
top like in War of the Gods, and like he won the War of the Gods finals. That like players who are really familiar with him like already know that he's a massive threat at this point. But I mean, for the offline tournaments he's attended, I think he got like I want to say 17th or 25th at the first combo breaker, and then
Hmm.
I think he got 13th at KIT.
Yeah, he hasn't
So
done that bad. I
yeah,
don't.
he hasn't done bad, but it's like when you play Tweety or like when you see Tweety play like in the War of the Gods and stuff, you're just like this dude like can get top 8.
Yeah.
Like this dude can get top 3. And like I think this combo breaker is going to be his time finally.
Oh yeah.
He,
It's always
he
cool to
it,
see somebody rise up.
yeah, like just I haven't played his Starfire as often as his other characters, but like just seeing like him play like with that character, since I think he's the best Starfire in the world, I'm just like if I play against this guy like online or like in tournament, I would probably like uninstall my game like right afterwards. Like just because I have a personal vendetta against that character, but it's like since he's the best player in the world with that character, I'm just like, yeah, I don't think I'm mentally prepared to like face him in my bracket.
You'll say that, but then you'll do fine. You know what I mean? Like well, you never know. You never know. Like that's the cool thing too about fighting games is it's also terrifying as you go in. You think you're prepared.
Hmm.
Sometimes you're like, what the hell just happened? And that's a thing that I think with Dragon Ball being at Combo Breaker that we'll see a lot of. Like now one person that like I really like watching is Nakiel. Um,
Hmm.
he's just fantastic. And um I really want to see Yohosi do well. Like everything she posts online is so like hilarious and like badass, and she's been
Uh-huh.
busting her ass at this game. So
Yeah.
I know she's going to Combat Breaker too. So I'm really hoping that she plays as well. She has like
Yeah.
some really, I don't know if you see like all the dirty like Go Tanks stuff she posts, but she's
Oh
always
yeah,
on
I
it.
follow her. Yeah. Yeah, I follow her. She's really, really good. And she's not just a tech monster, because you know how there's like some players where their tech is much, much more superior than their play. Like I don't
Hmm.
think that's the case with her, because like she attended NCR and I think she got top 16. But like she had Moke in her pool, and like she took him to the limit. Like it was 2-1. Like there was like this point where I'm just like, holy shit, like is she gonna do this? So I mean, like she's mad good. Like I wouldn't be surprised if she gets really, really far in that tournament. Um, yeah, and I mentioned Toxin earlier. Like
Hmm.
I mean, like Toxin isn't really someone where I'm gonna say like this is gonna be his breakout, because like he got ninth at Winter Brawl, which obviously for his standards is not good enough, because he's better than that. But he
He
also
thinks he's
won.
cursed,
Yeah, but I mean,
but he
like,
did take first at the Chicago gaming thing that happened out here.
yeah, exactly.
So.
I know he says he's cursed, but I also think that while he is an excellent Injustice 2 player, I think that he's much, much better in Dragon Ball than he is at Injustice, even though he's still a great Injustice player. So it's like when he says that curse, I'm just like, dude, like you're way, way more annoying to fight in Dragon Ball. So I don't think that curse applies to you in this game. So I wouldn't be surprised if he goes really, really far to at Combo Breaker. And I mean, speaking of curses, since you brought that up, Silver Eye, like 2017 has just like not been his year. Like when it came to the first IPS finals, because like he had this curse where he'd either get ninth or 17th, and it would always like turn over every tournament, where it's not like, let's say, ninth, 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 17th, ninth. It's like ninth, 17th, ninth,
Oh
17th,
my
ninth,
God.
17th.
I
It's
remember
like,
this.
yeah, it's like clockwork basically. But I mean, I don't know what freaking secret like potion or like what kind of like epiphany that man had, because 2018 Rye is like exponentially better than 2017 Rye. Like 2017 Rye, like when I, played him in casuals, like I would usually beat him pretty bad, because like that's when he used to be a Batman loyalist.
Hmm.
But like 2018 Rye, just like playing against his whole like team of characters now is just so like stressful and so draining and just like so discouraging sometimes, because I personally hate fighting against Hellboy. That like every time I play him, I'm just like, this guy's playing like a champion right now. Like this guy's playing like a top three player right now. And especially like, with the players that he scalps too, like in the online tournaments. Like he's beaten Samij before with Hellboy, a matchup that a lot of Hellboys don't like. Where, like, I feel like 20. I love how I'm saying 2018 right, as if like he received a patch or something, where it's
Yeah,
just
he
like,
he got a balance patch where, he got buffed.
yeah, yeah,
So
seriously. It's like, I'll put it to you this way: Silver Eye Arcade Edition would probably get like top 8 at Combo Breaker. I feel like his
I can see that.
he he's at that level right now.
I can definitely see that. It'll be really cool to find out. Like I just caught up with Rick a little bit yesterday at the Red Bull Conquest, and just the stuff he has planned for Combo Breaker is just so cool. We're so lucky to have a tournament like his, for the community.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of the other tournaments that like exist, like I think they all learn from each other, but I think that, every tournament can still learn from others, but I think a lot of people have a bunch that they could learn from him, and like the amount of like love that he puts into what he does.
Yeah,
So,
definitely. Definitely. I've never been to Combo Breaker. I went to UFGT, like
really?
Yeah,
I thought you
I
were there last year. I don't know why, but I thought you were there last year for some reason. Maybe
no, I
because it
was
was like the start of Injustice.
well, not just that, but like in May I was unsponsored, boys. So I mean, like
Uh,
if I nuked the money to go to Combo Break, I would have been like bankrupt at this point. So like going to CEO, because I wasn't sponsored at CEO either. Like I had to like do some really stingy living to be able to save up that CEO money.
oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine, especially like with playing like full time, it's definitely got to take its toll on you. But it helps because obviously it paid off to where you're now sponsored and you're sponsored by one of the best there is. So, you
Yeah,
know.
for sure.
The last like discussion point, just for fun, before we go into the Bulma brief, is uh now were you a fan of the Dragon Ball series like before the game? I take it, yes.
I was, but the thing is, I used to watch Dragon Ball religiously back when I was in elementary school when it was on Toonami.
Yeah.
So my kind of memory of like the lore, the storyline, and all that stuff is kind of blurry since I can only talk about it from my 7-year-old point of view.
Hmm.
Um, like I haven't really followed like Super that much, and I haven't like rewatched the series that much going into DBFC. So it's like if you ask me like, oh my god, do you remember that one episode? Like I'd probably just like remember bits and pieces in my head, but like
Is there
no.
any is there any nostalgic like flashback you've had since like you started playing the game that maybe made you remember something that you enjoyed when you were younger in the show?
Well, it's kind of bittersweet because the thing is, my favorite character in that show is Hercule, just because I'm just a huge fan of underdogs in general. That like, so you know how there's premium Z coins in
Oh yeah.
DBFC, right? Seeing his face on that premium Z coin and just like seeing that he's available as a lobby avatar character but not as like a playable character just makes me so pissed off that like he's not in the game because see here's what's messed up. He was in all the Budokai games as far as I remember. Like he was a mainstay in like most of the DBFC or DBZ fighting games. But then for some reason Arxis was just like, "Nah, we're not going to put him in this game." It's like
Not yet.
and like, oh my god, here's okay, yeah, hopefully not yet, but like here's what's more messed up. I didn't play any of the old Budokai games, in depth. So it's like the one Dragon Ball game that I decide to play religiously, my favorite character is not in it. So to directly answer your question, like, did I get nostalgia from seeing his face on the Z coin or seeing the lobby avatar? Yes, I did, but I mean, it's kind of it's like depressing nostalgia. It's kind of like
I feel you. I
y-
definitely want to see him and Videl. I'd like to see Videl in there too. I think they both
yeah,
would fit the game.
or even Mexu Bulma, she'd be cool.
I that's actually we've talked about that on the podcast before. We've talked about if Bulma was in there, we could have Bulma with a mech suit and it would be kick ass.
Yeah,
So,
definitely. She'd be dope.
all right, let's get into it. The Bulma brief. So this is our tweet segment. We go over some random tweets I've seen and we laugh at them, dissect them, cry over them. You know, you've been on here before actually. I don't you probably didn't know you were on here before, but you've had tweets used on here before.
Oh
So
shit.
let's go into tweet number one. We have Kotaku tweeting about your teammate Sonic Fox saying, even in a fursuit, Sonic Fox keeps winning fighting game tournaments. um, so we kind of talked about this a little bit earlier. You were talking about his snout and how you might have to play on the opposite side of him being in there. Does
Yeah.
it surprise you at all that do you think he'll at a bigger tournament than Clutch? Because clearly Clutch was probably still a challenging tournament, but at the same time, it's not like something like Combo Breaker. Do you think we'll see him still wear the fur hood in a match where it's like there's more on the line?
I think I know exactly what he would do just based off like, past data. So in Injustice 1, he used to pop off on how Joker was like secretly broke and stuff. Like Joker was kind of like his haha he he character. So it's like he would sometimes use Joker like in pools, but then like, in top 16 or like top 8, like he would use his like serious characters. And like you see him do that a lot where it's like in pools against like, lesser level players, he'll kind of use like his troll characters. And then like once like top 32 or top 16 comes, that's when it's like showtime for him. So I think what would happen at Combo Breaker is like he would use his fursuit like in pools, like where the stakes are a little lower. But I think like once he's in top 32 for either games, like that's when the fursuit would come off, and that's when it's like where you'd have to play it as 100%. Now I am like terrified saying this because what's gonna happen is like I'm gonna freaking play against him, and then he's gonna body me with the fursuit, like rendering this whole conversation invalid. Because I played him in casuals like a couple days ago against his Captain Cold, and he bodied me in his fursuit. So let me let me
Oh.
let me rephrase that real quick. He'll use the fursuit either in pools or against me. one or the other.
I actually look forward to that just because I'll
I don't.
reminisce on this moment. But
I don't.
I just hope that it's, equal playing grounds. Let's see. This we might not know this. The fursuit might give him even more superpowers than he already potentially has. You know,
Yeah, I mean,
there's
yeah, I
something
mean, I
special
wouldn't be
about it.
surprised.
All right, tweet number two. We got somebody saying, stay with someone that looks at you the way Zamasu looks at Goku Black. So we recently got the fused Zamasu trailer, and it's been a pinnacle of memes ever since. Now you are a meme king of the fighting game community, or we see you pop up a lot with your tweets, kind of like the way this is worded, where you're like, get you somebody, or don't ladies don't stay with a man that does this. Um, have you enjoyed these memes so far with the Zamasu?
I mean, the thing is, I'm not that big of a fan of Zamasu, so I mean, like, yeah, the meme's funny. I mean, like the way they look at each other is funny, but since like I'm not a huge fan of the character to begin with, like it doesn't really like affect me, that much. As opposed to like other like past memes of like get you someone who looks at you, this and this way. So yeah, I mean, I'm biased there because I personally think Zamasu looks like really, really dumb. So
I mean, to each their own. I will say this, I'm like kind of bummed that the trailers seem to be getting shorter and shorter. Like I want a little bit more with the reveal trailers for this, cuz like we just
uh,
got the Vegito one, and it's like barely any time at all to show what he does.
we're spoiled with NRS trailers.
I know, we get so much with them, right?
Yeah, it's like even with like the first trailer, like because I think Broly was like the first ever character where they did like DLC trailer for. Like we're all just like, what the hell just like happened? We just got like because it's like the trailer is 30 seconds, but then it's like 10 seconds goes to the intro, or like 5-10 seconds goes to the intro, and then another like 5-10 seconds goes to the level 3 super. So it's
Mhm.
like if you do the quick maths, then it's just like 10 seconds just like goes to seeing actual like gameplay. So I'm just like, like we only get like really 10 seconds of just gameplay for each of these characters where we're just scratching our heads like what the heck just happened.
Yeah, it's you're right. We're spoiled. We're just
Yeah.
spoiled brats. That's what it comes down to. All right, tweet number three. We got Nico. How do I get better at defense? Me. Well, take this. The Cell challenge. Block his strings and Vegeta assist. Like a long ass number times in a row. Um, how do you personally feel when you play against people that play Cell with Vegeta assist, or just Cell in general? Because I know Cell is definitely high tier in this game.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'd say even high tier is like an understatement. He is like the I mean, just to kind of like give you a different another meme along with that, like when the patch was announced, like a lot of people were memeing that like Cell players would be like, yeah, guys, Cell is fine. Like other characters should be balanced to be like Cell. Like Cell should be that middle ground that everyone like balances every character around. But then I'm just like, Cell isn't a middle ground. Like that character is insane. But I mean, just to like, answer your question more, fighting Cell in a 1v1 doesn't scare me as much as fighting Cell with the Vegeta assist. But that's more of an indictment on the Vegeta assist than it is on Cell. Because it's just like Vegeta assist, I feel like lopsides any character, in the game. And that's why people hate Vegeta assist so much. Because it's like when you determine a character's tier placement in this game, if your data for that character is a team that has Vegeta in it, it renders that character's tier placement invalid just because of how much better the Vegeta assist makes that character.
Hmm.
So anyway, in short, like, do I think Cell is annoying in a 1v1? Yeah, but like nothing that I would be terrified of. Do I think Cell is terrifying with Vegeta? Yeah, screw that. But like if you but like I mean, like I said, if you said to me like, what do you think about fighting Yamcha with a Vegeta assist? Like I would just give you the same answer. Like that Vegeta assist just makes everyone broke basically.
Yeah, that's another thing I wonder with this balance patch if they're gonna change it all, just because it's just crazy. It's crazy. I've played the game against some friends and they use Vegeta on their team, and trying to learn the game and playing against somebody with a Vegeta assist, you're just like, should I put my controller down now or
Yeah.
um anyways, tweet number 4, we have you. Um
Me.
you talking about the English voice tier list.
Uh-huh.
So you're saying that the S tier would be Yamcha, and then not
Uh-huh.
S tier everyone else. So I assume that you play the voices in Japanese.
No, I play them in English.
Oh, okay.
Because the thing is, like, when you play them in Japanese, like, yeah, some Japanese voices are awesome. Like, Hit's Japanese voice, I think, is awesome. Just the way he goes, like, Hima no Kamaiwa when he does his level 3, like, that shit is amazing. Um, but then, like, the other thing is, I hate that grandma voice that they give all the Gokus, like, Gohan, um, Goku Black, Bardock. They give them that stereotypical, like, grandma voice.
I think it is actually a grandma. Like I think it's actually an old woman.
Seriously?
Yeah, yeah. I think the person who voices Goku in Japan is actually an old woman.
Because I thought that was a meme. But,
No,
like, wow.
I'm almost 100% sure it actually is a senior citizen who is a woman.
Oh my God.
So that is something new that you've learned today.
That
Um,
is.
yeah, she's a little old lady, and that would be why her voice sounds like that.
But, like, yeah. And I'm just like, you know what? Like, I just want more variety in my voices, so I always keep them at English. Now, that's not to say that, like, all the English voices are great. Like, I think some English voices kind of suck. Like, Teen Gohan's English voice. Like, every time he goes, switch in for me, like, when you tag him out, that just annoys me. But then it's like with English, you get the Yamcha voice, you get the legendary Vegeta voice, you get Hit, who I think sounds super slick in English too. You get Tien screaming Chao Tzu in English. That I just think putting up with a couple of blunder English voices is still worth with like what you get in the full package.
Yeah, I agree. I'm actually one of the sticklers who will say like, I grew up with listening to them in English with watching the anime
Yeah.
on Toonami, like you also said. Um,
Mhm.
and I mean, it's just I just think some of them do sound better. Like not to say they all sound better like you said, but I especially like watching Super a little bit because I'm not
Mhm.
all the way through Super.
Yeah.
But Beerus, like he sounds cool in Japanese too, but like the Beerus English voice, he's just a badass. Like he's like the personality of his character. Like he's like a cocky prick, and
Yeah.
that's exactly how he sounds in English. And that's also like I can't imagine Trunks in Japanese is also cool, but Trunks like when he's like it's over, you know, it's just so nostalgic to hear it in English for me. But I guess it would be the same for somebody who also grew up watching in Japanese. Um,
What's actually funny is so you know how like when you select each character they say a line like while you select them.
mhm.
This man Goku says like a freaking dissertation when you select him. He's just like, because like okay, everyone has like one line that they say, but Goku's just like, I am a legend, pure of heart, awakened by rage. I am the legendary Super Saiyan, Son Goku. It's just like, okay, are you done?
He's giving a
like,
speech.
yeah, this man gave his whole like Wikipedia page like while you freaking select him.
He's cutting a promo, as they'd say, right?
Seriously, yeah.
Yeah, I mean they're great. So I love when you make tweets like this, by the way. I think the community does too. Like you can definitely tell people have taken to the goofy, like funny tweets that you started posting in the last year. So
Yeah,
definitely
just
some fun shit. So
I appreciate you thinking that.
all right, so we're going back to the main screen now. There we are. And we're gonna cut. So everyone that's been watching, we're not doing the quiz section just for time's sake tonight. And then we're also gonna skip the Shenron's wish because Theo actually has already given us like throughout the podcast today a lot of really good advice. So we don't need to have him sit necessarily in the hyperbolic time chamber right now. Um, but that way we'll get to the last bit. So the impersonation where I make you get to act like a fool for everyone
Oh God.
watching.
Oh
Um,
God.
so since you're a Tien player, by the way, I wanted to say it's really cool watching you play Tien because it's a character that's like I think that's like your unique character. You know what I mean? Because even though you play
Mhm.
these other characters that are like the high tier, like he's like your one in the bag that is he seems to play really well with your play style, and he's not something that you see in every team. So
Well, yeah. I mean, here's the thing. You got to know the vortex. It's like when you play Gohan or 16. Like even though, like I said, I switched Gohan for Bardock, I still think Bardock is top tier. But like when you play those top tier characters, you need that one character where you have like a little bit of prop fishing, like that like little tree bench of prop fishing, like you can maintain. So it's like that's why I use Tien. So it's just like when people tell me like I'm a tier whore and I just play like boring ass characters, I'm just like, nah, look at my Tien. Like like I empathize with the low tier struggle, even though I don't think he's low tier. So it's just like, that's why you got to do it. One, Tien's cool, and two, like, it's for prop fishing purposes. So people don't just attack me for playing Android 16.
yeah, there you go. Everyone get off his back. He doesn't just play high tier, okay? So yeah, no, I definitely respect that. So with that being said, our quote for you is Tien. It's back in the Saiyan saga. He
Uh-huh.
loses Chaozu, and then he goes and basically sacrifices himself for trying to like avenge Chaozu.
Mm-hmm.
After having the saddest like flashback, like one of the saddest flashbacks in like Dragon Ball history, like of him just like remembering the day he first like got Chaozu and all this. Like it's very heartbreaking. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but he, in a dramatic voice yells, "I'll be with you again soon, Chaozu." And that's what I would like you for the impersonation segment bit in this
Now,
podcast.
now, if you guys saw from the webcam that I was laughing, and you guys probably think I'm a heartless monster for laughing at that, I wasn't laughing at the quote. I was just imagining like if Sonic Fox said like that exact quote. What was the quote you said?
I'll be with you again soon, Chaozu.
I'll be with you again soon, bitch. Okay, but seriously though, as Tien, um, because okay, so here's the thing, Tien just sounds like normal. Like unless he
Like
sounds like
like
Chaozu, he just
I'll
sounds like a
I'll
norm.
be with you like he's you
I'll
got
be with you. I'll be with you again soon, Chaozu.
you gotta like emphasize the Chaozu though. Like you Chaozu like
I'll be with you again soon, Chaozu.
there you go. I'll give that.
All
I
right.
I I love having people do this. I'd say my favorite, like not to pick favorites, but I'd say my favorite so far is I had a girl on here, Kitty Kaboom.
Uh
Uh, she can actually speak Japanese, and she
huh.
spoke one of Android 21 while dressed as Android 21's lines in
Oh my
Japanese
god.
while eating a macaroon.
That's like the full cosplay package.
it was it was OD, right? It was OD, but yours was really good. You got it there at the end, um, and well, you're allowed to get away with the Sonic Fox impersonation because he's your teammate. Because you guys can settle it when he chooses to wear his fursuit against you in a tournament.
Yeah, but like if he speaks in a fursuit, I assume like the bitch part is just gonna be like totally muffled. It's just like you're just gonna hear him go like bitch. Like that's what you would hear like from the fursuit. It's
You'll
just
hear.
like
I like his he's. He's like you'll hear that the laugh. You'll hear
or
that
just
through
like
the fursuit.
yeah, or it's just like when he's mixing you up in tournament and then he's or not in tournament, just in casual, he's like, I'm so D right now. Yee. Like he has that like really, really aggressive exhaling like he where he goes, yee.
He
Like
gets
that's
mad hype.
yeah, like when that he comes out, like that's when like he's reaching his final form, basically.
He just what if it, oh my god, what if his suit just evolves like while he's like, fool, this is the name of my final form. Um
Yeah, basically.
yeah, so again, like I know this isn't as long as the usual Red Ribbon. Actually, it almost is. Like we've almost been an hour, so dang.
Mhm.
But yeah, thank you so much for being on this, Theo.
Of course.
I appreciate hearing your insight, and there's a lot of people in the community that obviously look up to you and, value you as a player and like seeing what you do in tournament, and you're a person now where, especially with being sponsored, that, people are always watching what you do.
Hmm.
So it's good for you to kind of like, get on here and talk to the people about what you're doing and how you feel about the game, because I'm sure that people value your opinion on that.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, thank you so much for having me on. It was awesome. I appreciate it.
Hell yeah. And there's always going to be more of these. So everyone tuning in, next month we'll have one probably right before Combo Breaker. So look forward to that. And when I announce that, make sure you follow Red Ribbon Tweets, me. Make sure you follow Theo. I'm like pointing in all directions on the screen right now. Make sure you follow Theo. Keep updated on what he's doing. He's not just a Dragon Ball FighterZ like player. He's also a really talented NRS game player. So make sure you
And
check
Shaq
everything
Fu.
out. Wait, what?
And Shaq Fu.
What?
Don't forget about my Shaq Fu skills.
Oh my God, I don't even know what that is. I'm not even gonna pretend to know what that is, but I trust what you're saying.
Then you're glad that the podcast is almost ending. Otherwise, I would have just like
Gone on
blown
about
up
it.
for it. Yeah,
Okay.
basically.
No problem. That'll be for next time, okay?
For sure. All
So yeah, thank you everyone, and we'll see you next time.
right. Peace.